Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. If you're a long-time listener, not even long time, I think we had her on like 11 months ago, you'd recognize that Gabby's back on the podcast. She's on here to give us an update on, what she's been up to since the last time that we had her on. And funny enough, everyone, she's like one of the 3 guests that actually met in person. So she does know how tall I am because everyone else is always like, no, he's not that tall. And there's like, no, she's met me in person. So like she actually can verify that for me. We met at a show in Prior Lake, which is closer-ish to where we both live. And yeah, she's on here to give us an update, like I said, about what she's been up to. But most importantly, Gabby, thank you so much for coming back on.
Of course, happy to be here.
Okay, so just to get out of the way, I am tall, right? Like just to verify for okay, because I've had so many people be like, he's not that tall, like there's no way, and then I'm like, okay, she's one of the 3 people that have met me that's been on the show, her and Megan, and then I think Kayla was another one that I had on. So that's part of the reason why I did go to the show. I was like, okay, I need to have some people that can like verify this for me. No, we had fun. We hung out a little bit, and we did our own personal little judging of some of the guests that or some of the people that went up on the stage, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. And do you know if they're doing that same show this year? All right, well, I'll have to see that in there. We'll have to do like a little tradition then or something like that there. So are you going to be at that show, or are you going to be just spectating?
Just spectating.
Okay, just spectating. All right, yep. Sounds good. Well, it's been, like we said, almost a year since we last had you on. What have you been up to?
Kind of the same old. Went into a prep starting in January for a couple of shows. Did my first one at the end of April and did my last one last weekend. So in between that year, I just went through kind of a little bit of a bulk, not a big one. Wasn't a ton of time. It was about 6 months between my last show to when I started cutting. So yeah, I just did that bulk and then started prep all over again.
Is it easier or harder to prep during the winter than any other season?
I'd say it's easier just because in the summer, at least in Minnesota, once it gets nice out, you want to go sit at a patio, you want to go have dinner outside and stuff like that. Where in the winter, like it's so cold here, you don't want to do anything. You kind of just sit around anyway. So
that's what I would have personally probably thought myself. But then on the negative side of that though too, you don't want to get so lean down during the winter because then you're just
freezing.
It's just, that's just a horror waiting to happen. But hey, at least you got it in early in the year. Because like I said, if I had to do that prep right now, especially in the coming months of the summer, that is good luck. And did you change things up at all with your preps, or is it kind of a same old? I know that everyone's prep is a little bit different year by year, but how are things different this year?
The prep was different just in terms of cutting, just because in that time that I did do a bulk, I did put on some more dense muscle that I didn't have the year before. So as I was getting leaner and that muscle was kind of staying, tapered down the cardio, my food stayed up just to keep the fullness and everything, because that's kind of what they look for. So it was definitely a different look than I've ever had in the 3.5 years that I've been competing. So it was kind of cool to see. And obviously we still had cardio, but it wasn't as intense as it had been in the past. And going into that first show, we kind of discovered that I'm too hard for bikini and what they look for in bikini. So there were muscles striating that we're not supposed to have, and I was really vascular, and the muscle density was just so hard that we were like, uh-oh. So that was the first time I've ever eaten dirty before going on stage. So I had 1.5 chicken sandwiches with fries, and then I had chicken strips with fries and 4 cookies before going on stage to make me softer. So that was the first time I ever got to do that. So that was cool.
Hey, at least you had energy then walking on that stage, as opposed to just the sort of dead feeling. But yeah, that's the first time I've ever heard someone actually eating like that before they've went on stage. That's out of all the guests that I've had on. So, hey, at least you know that you're doing your job if you come in a little bit hard, even for a bodybuilding show or a bikini show. Then at least you're doing something right. But what would you say is probably the one aspect of your physique that's improved on the most since last year?
Definitely my lower half, my glutes, my hamstrings. We hammered them for pretty much the entire time, even through cutting. I had 4 leg days.
What?
And Yeah. 4 leg days and 1 general upper body, because my upper body has always been there.
Yeah.
Like with my shoulders, they
Were you
always
having
snap.
someone carry you to the gym then, basically then? Like, how are you functioning?
Basically, yeah. We really hammered my legs, and not really quads. It was mostly just glutes and hamstrings. It was just constant hammering them. So I took my recovery really seriously with baths and stretching and massages, chiropractic, that kind of thing. So I never really got too sore. Um, but that's definitely the biggest change that we saw this year.
I was gonna say, I even know the most extreme gym bros of all time that don't even train their arms 4 times a week. So I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's pushing it right there, guys. So yeah, I mean, hey, it's what you really have to do. But 4 times a week, God, I mean, my legs are even starting to shake right now just even thinking about that. So hey, more power to you for doing that. But how often would you see like the masseuse and everything? Because I'd imagine for me that would have to be like an almost every other day occurrence then.
Yeah, I go twice a month.
Okay.
So every other week.
Okay. Even during the 4 days a week that you were doing legs.
Yeah.
What is wrong with you? Okay.
From last season, it's the one thing that really needed to improve. And I wasn't going to get back on stage without any of that improvement. So actually seeing tie ins before I was stage lean and that kind of thing was what we needed to see for sure.
So, like you mentioned, you were a little too hard for your first show. How did you change things up so that you weren't like as hard for the show that you just competed at?
Yeah, so I had 4 weeks in between the first show to the second one, which was a national, and we just upped my food. So I was eating way more carbs. Protein kind of stayed the same, but way more carbs, more fat, just to kind of keep the muscle density, but also take away kind of that hardness. Just with, because it's obviously different in every division. Other divisions, they want to see the hardness and the striations. With bikini, they don't. So that's what we did going into it. And then my peak week was nice because my coach and I were actually together, because you can't really tell how someone looks over a picture. So it was nice to like physically be there with her every morning, middle of the day, at night, because we checked in like at least 3 times a day just to see how food's doing, what we need to do, and that kind of thing. And every day leading up to the show, I was dropping by a pound every day. So, which was fine, because then when you get back down to that lean, then you just eat a crap ton before you hit the stage in the morning. And it's exactly what we needed.
Well, a question that I've just recently been asking people, which again just proves how really good I am at this, if it took me this long to really, come up with this question, is, a lot of people don't understand with preps in the very beginning, like you don't see that much change for the first few weeks. Like it's doing the same thing over and over, but you're not really seeing those results. How hard is that mentally to just pull through on those weeks when you know that, like, hey, down the line, I am going to start to see some changes, but like at the moment, you're not really seeing anything? Because it's kind of like how I equate when people start a weight loss journey. The first few weeks, you might not see that much change, but how hard is that the first few weeks of prep when you're not really seeing that change, but you're upending your entire lifestyle basically and just focusing on that, and the changes aren't really coming that fast?
Yeah, so there was actually 4 or 5 weeks where I stayed the exact same weight. And that was probably like between 12 and 7 weeks out. I just stayed the same weight. I could not crack 120. And it does get defeating when, you are doing everything to a T. You're hitting your macros to a T. You're hitting your cardio, your workouts, everything, your water, and it's just not moving. And it's just one of those things that you just have to remind yourself that just stick to it, because it'll come. It'll drop at some point. It's just a matter of when that is. So after I stayed the same weight for about 5 weeks, that following week, I dropped like 2 or 3 pounds in that 1 week. So it's just sticking to it. Sometimes maybe you need like a little bit of a macro change just to hit your metabolism to go a little faster. But it's really just telling yourself to stick with it and not to let it defeat you in the fact of everybody is different. And if you keep your goal in mind and what you're trying to do, and you just keep hitting everything to a T, it'll happen. Because I remember I talked to a couple of my friends and I was like, I haven't dropped in like 4 weeks. It's making me nervous. So, like, it's going to have that effect. And they would always just tell me the same thing: stick to it. You got it. Don't worry. It'll happen. And so you just have to keep reminding yourself of that as long as you're doing everything that you're supposed to, you will be ready.
Well, I have a similar story, but it's a little bit more embarrassing because when I started my weight loss journey, it wasn't even weight loss journey, it was bulking up really. I was also eating like 3 PB&Js a day on top of that. And then I kind of realized that, like, hey, maybe the reason why I'm not doing that is because I'm having so much peanut butter and so much bread in a day. Now, it took me, again, I'm not the brightest person, so it took me about a month and a half before I finally realized that. But then I finally talked to a friend about it, and they're like, yeah, just cut that off. And then literally like 2 weeks after that started to go down. And then I felt like an idiot, but hey, I'm glad that I got it out of the way. But do you ever suffer at all from traveling, especially before a show? Because I know a lot of people sometimes with the just maybe like sitting in a car or doing an airplane, sometimes it kind of fluctuates the body a little bit. Does that ever affect you at all?
I typically don't go anywhere if I am prepping for a show, just because I know I'm too tired to most of the time to even have the energy to travel. If I had to travel, flying and driving doesn't typically have any effect on me. Most people it does. Like flying, you're going to have some water retention. Different elevations, you're going to have water retention, that kind of thing. Luckily for me, I don't have that issue. Because even when I landed for nationals, I was tighter than I was in that morning when I checked in before flying. So it doesn't for me, but it definitely can.
Well, aren't you special, Gabby? Good God. No, because I mean, I've had so many guests come on that talk to me, just even like you said, like in the plane ride where they just feel so much more fuller when they get there. And I've always said Colorado should really host their own shows then with that elevation, just to see like how that would mess people up, which I went to Pikes Peak up there and I'm proud of this. I'm the only person in my family that didn't have breathing problems at the top of the hill. So
Awesome.
Again, my older brother was in better shape than me. So it just must just be luck of the draw thing. Like, but that was, again, they got to mix things up more with bodybuilding, where they got to do different locations. They got to do different areas. We got to get one in Minnesota too. Like, they got to get like a major show. I'm surprised they don't have one here. We're like one of the healthiest states in the country. You'd think that we would have a show.
Yeah, that biggest one is that TCO. Yeah. That Twin Cities Open in July here.
I'm talking about like a pro show, like a big,
a big
thing. Yeah. Like the Minneapolis Pro or something. I don't know.
The only one I know of was Mr. and Miss Minnesota.
Yeah.
That's in October, but I don't think they're doing it this year. So.
Oh, they're not?
I don't think so.
Oh. Let's see. But I was gonna say, I mean, like, we're one of the healthiest states in the country. We should have our own like pro show or something like that, because who wants to? I'm sorry, like, I'm not gonna drive 6 hours to Chicago to go to a show, everyone, especially on the limited time that I have off from my job and everything else. But yeah, again, the fact that like you had to travel all the way to South Carolina and do all that stuff, that is. So how many days ahead of the show do you normally get there? Is it a couple days, or how do you plan it out?
I got there on Tuesday, so show wasn't until Saturday. Because I still do give myself, even though I don't get a lot of that water retention, I still give myself and my body time to get used to where I am in case something were to happen. So I'd rather be prepared than getting there on like a Friday, the day before, that kind of stuff I'm not going to do. So we get there pretty early it's just, for me, it's a lot less stress too if I'm already there. Can just go do my pump ups and, eat and call it a day.
Wait, South Carolina, is that a 1 hour time difference? Or are they an hour ahead?
Hour ahead.
So was that a factor at all?
Mm-mm.
I got to visit my brother in San Diego in a couple of months, and that's the 2 hour thing. So I got to make sure that I leave. I mean, I'm already a night owl enough as it is, so it's probably going to mess me up even more. But
yeah.
When you're done with the show, like we talked about before we started recording, I mean, you enjoyed yourself. You had a lot of food. Is it hard? How does the digestion whole system work like that? Because I'm one of those persons where when I pig out, especially during Thanksgiving, it's hard for me the next few days. How do you deal with that? Or are you just one of the, I mean, you've already kind of laid out the fact that you are sort of a special type of person. So maybe it doesn't affect you at all. Maybe it does, but where do you fall on that?
I never get sick from eating. I know. It doesn't really affect my body in that way, especially because like dirty food going into a show, I'm already eating it and I don't bloat. Nothing really happens with my digestion. I just take that kind of food really well. I mean, I definitely do get, after the show, because I ate Saturday night, we ate Sunday, and I did eat Monday as well since I'm done for the season. And I definitely get like the bloating later, mostly too because I'm not drinking enough water. And so it's definitely so like Tuesday is when I got back on my actual meal plan and eating how I'm supposed to. And now I'm just really hungry because I ate a bunch of crap and my body loved that. And now I'm back to my normal meal plan and going into a reverse. So your macros aren't going to be super high yet. And so now it just makes me hungry.
So how do you deal with the hunger pangs? Because as someone like I'm doing like 20,000 steps a day, basically when you incorporate my walks and everything.
Yep.
If I don't get that proper amount of food, like I can't sleep really that much, or I'll get like a few hours of sleep and then I'll have to wake up and then I just won't be able to fall back asleep. How do you deal with those hunger pangs?
I typically don't start eating until 10:30 in the morning. Because I usually will just like drink my coffee slow and that will usually and like drink a bunch of water in the morning, so that usually ties me over until I start eating. And then I mean honestly with work, like the busier I am, the more I don't think about it. And so like I'll eat my first meal, I'll go to the gym, which usually takes me hour to 2 hours depending on the lift, and then when I get back I have snack, which is like a bunch of carbs and stuff, and then I just kind of keep working, and I don't have my last meal until 9 or 10. So like pretty much an hour or so before I'm going to bed, just to make sure that like I'm full going to bed.
The only problem is that like I get headaches and then I sometimes mistake them for like being sick as opposed to like just being hungry. Mm-hmm. So then my mind will be like, oh God, you're going to get sick. This is going to be a horrible next couple of days. And then I just have like a thing of cereal and then I'm like, oh, you're fine. Like it was just hunger. So that's the only real problem with me. But as we can see, you're still sort of in that, stage look. It's been less than a week since you've stepped on stage. How long before you sort of start to feel your mind slowly come back to you and like you start to get a little bit more brain power? Is it a few days afterwards or are you still sort of just slowly getting it back?
It usually takes probably like 4 weeks before I'm like fully back, because I still during the day like I'll get tired or I feel like I need more coffee and that energy just isn't like all the way there yet. So it usually takes me a couple of weeks as that food is slowly going up over those next couple of weeks. And then depending on how
we have a wife alert here, everyone.
Yeah.
Hi, how's it going?
Dirty and nasty. So so like 4 weeks is usually when I'm feeling better and have that energy, and the hunger is kind of like starting to level out after that, because now I have more food and I can start adding like more like of the fun food still in my macros, but like more than just plain chicken, potatoes, and mustard. So once you have a little bit more freedom in your macros, you can start adding that stuff. Like for tomorrow, we got a Ninja Creamy.
Ooh.
And so I have a caramel cinnamon cheesecake ice cream that I'm going to eat tomorrow.
Please tell me that you are not putting the mustard in the potatoes, that it's just going to the chicken.
No, I mix it all.
Oh my God.
So my meals are ground turkey, potatoes, shrimp with mustard, and then chicken, potato, shrimp, and mustard.
You mix the shrimp and mustard too?
Yeah.
Special kind of people these people are, everyone, again, and we just, we prove it every single episode that we do this. But how long before, because like you've seen me, you know me, like I'm one of the palest people you'll ever meet in your entire life. How long until that tan finally dries off of you as well?
It depends on how much you work to get it off. Like now that when I competed at the end of April and I had 4 weeks, I definitely took more time to get it off, because you want all of it off before you put another round of tan on. Otherwise, it's going to look funny. Now, I mean, I scrub when I'm in the shower, but like it usually takes probably like 2 to 3 weeks to fully come off. It's no joke. It hangs around, especially like on the ankles and the knees, like the kind of where that skin's a little different. It'll hang around there for quite a while. I don't think I got it fully off from my April show until probably like the week before my last show.
So like if it were to accidentally a little bit stay on, does it just make it look darker than it normally would then? Because you're kind of like adding an extra layer onto it, or?
It would just make it look kind of blotchy. Okay. So like, yeah, it'll give you like those dark spots if you don't have it off. Like there's been times before where I haven't fully gotten it off of like my back, which for me, having it on my back doesn't really matter too much just because my hair is covering it. But that's what it does. It'll make those splotchy dark marks.
How long after a show do you go back to work? Is it immediately or do you allow yourself some time to rest or?
No, like back to my like 9 to 5 job.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I work from home most of the time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm only in office twice a week, maybe, and I'm only there for maybe 4 hours. Otherwise, I'm at home. So I took, after this last show, I did take Monday off just so I could go eat and my wife and I could go out and stuff. But normally I was working the week I was in Charleston.
So you only have to go in twice a week. Just one of these days, just think about me and think about how lucky you are that you only have to go in twice a week.
Yeah.
I gotta go in. No, it's my little brother has the same exact thing out in California. He shows up once a week there, and otherwise it's all online. And oh my God, not having to deal with stupid people is a good thing, Gabby. When you only have to go in a couple days a week, it's a nice little gig. So I've been trying to get one of those jobs, but it hasn't happened yet. Where again with my ADD, I don't know if I can honestly keep a job where I wasn't like being checked on every once in a while. Because next thing you know, like I would be watching MLB highlights on my laptop or something like that, and then just doing that. So there's that. But what is the future looking like? Do you have a show in mind now to compete later on this summer, or what's the future looking like?
No, we're done for a while. Okay. Probably the next 3 to 4 years, I probably won't go back on stage. Yeah, so it's a long time, but this winter, my wife and I finally get to go on our honeymoon because we didn't get to go after we got married because she deployed.
By the way, thank you for your service. I don't know if she can hear me.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. Where are you guys going for your honeymoon?
So we're going to Carousel. It's in the Bahamas. And it's all-inclusive, beautiful resort. We have a swim-up room. So we're very excited for that. And then a couple months after that, we're going to look into growing our family. So that's why, we have a couple years to kind of give.
Well, I just did a podcast literally 2 weeks ago with, I'll send you her stuff. She's pregnant with twins. Oh, wow. And she's like still in shape and doing all that stuff. She just gave birth last week or a couple days ago. I just wished her congratulations for that. But yeah, I had 2 healthy twins. Luckily they weren't identical because I've always been kind of identical twins have always weirded me out. Don't even ask me why. But so yeah, that's great. So it was hilarious to see, like, because like she was still in shape, but she had like just that huge belly from like twins. And it's twins, just
especially, yeah.
I mean, well, I've always said, think about my poor mom, where I'm 6'3", my mom is 5'2", and she had to give birth to my tall butt. So, that poor woman. So, more props to her. But yeah, that is great. So do you have any idea of like, are you still obviously going to be like, do you still think you're going to be like in the gym and doing all that stuff when you're pregnant and all that stuff? Okay.
I've already been back in the gym since Tuesday. So bodybuilding at this point, even if I'm not stepping on stage for a few years, it's still a part of me at this point. It's a passion, and all that time is just going to give me is to grow my package even more. So when I step on stage the next time, it's a totally different person. And that's the goal. I mean, we knew, we got feedback from Junior USA that I still needed to grow my glutes. Hamstrings were fine. It's just the glute. We need more definition and more dense muscle in the glutes, which like for any kind of muscle growth, you need the time. You need to be eating a ton of food, lifting heavy, and giving yourself more than just 6 months to grow that kind of density.
Please, dear God, tell me that you're not thinking about doing 5 days a week now.
I'm on 5 days a week right now. Yeah. So
pretty soon it's going to be every day, and you're just going to be.
Yeah, I have. What do I have? I have a shoulder day, a back day, and then the rest are legs. So.
Oh, Gabby, what are we
I know. It's the lifestyle.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I just laugh at it because, like, as an outsider looking in, it's crazy to me, but it's crazy in a good way, where you're just like, oh, these people, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do about them? But no, that is great.
Side to that, like being in what's considered a bulk for that long, because I'll still do, like, say I'm in a bulk for a year, I'll still go through like a mini cut. Like, let's see what we've got going on. What do we need to work on? What's the shapes looking like? But the plus side too is that, like, I get a lot more freedom in my food, so I can go have those cheat meals and do the things that I kind of haven't been able to do in 3.5 years with being in prep and everything. So that's kind of, with my wife finally being home, like, we wanted to enjoy our summer this year, because I could have kept going this year, but it was just one of those things that she's finally home and we want to enjoy that time together and not have to worry about, oh, can I go there? Do they have a microwave? I have to pack my food. I have to make sure there's a gym. So, like, it just gives a lot more flexibility for doing those kinds of things.
Yeah, totally. So are you enjoying the little more added attention that you might get right now with this look, or is it one of those where you're just like, okay, I need to bulk up a little bit because, like, too many people are like paying attention to me?
I don't feel like, I mean, people come up to me at the gym here and there. Not a ton, because I'm one of those where I kind of have my headphones in and my head down when I'm lifting. But I have been lifting at my gym for 2 years, so I know quite a bit of people. And obviously, with the way I look now, it's like, oh, you're doing a show soon. Well, yeah. And I don't mind it. It's kind of just comes with it. Just when you look that lean, because being at that low of a body fat isn't normal. It's not the longevity. Like, you're not going to look like that forever. It's just not healthy either. But so I don't mind it. I've met a lot of really cool people that, you know, are supportive and genuinely curious on how everything goes, and so I don't mind.
Well, again, thank God I wasn't ever doing this, because I would be the exact opposite, where I would be out of my house every single day of every hour just showing off to people, and then they just be like, Ryan, you got to tone it down a little bit. And I was like, I'm not going to look this good for a while, so, you know, everyone's going to have to see it. So again, that's another positive that I've, you know, never competed myself. But I saw when we met at the show, I saw how close, you know, you are with fellow competitors and how it's just a whole sisterhood. How important is that for you? Because, like, I was aware of it a little bit, but until I really saw it in person, like, just how close the competitors are to each other. I mean, it's a special thing, especially on the female side of it, just how close a lot of the competitors are. How important is that to you?
I mean, it plays a huge role when you're doing those bigger shows like Junior USA, for instance. Like, there was quite a few of us, so we're on a team, Fit Body Fusion. And so there's multiple competitors, there's multiple coaches there. There's it's the husband of the owner of Fit Body Fusion was there. And just having that support and love around you, no matter what happens or how you place, it makes it so much easier to be confident going on stage with all of those people behind you, all of those people cheering for you that are watching. I don't know that I would ever want to not be on a team at this point, because I'm even going to Chattanooga in 4 weeks to go cheer on my teammates that are doing that nationals. And I'm not competing, but I love being around it. And I love being there to support the other girls and just be around everyone and just make those friendships. And because a lot of us, there's some of us that, you know, will keep competing after Junior USA's, and there's some of us that are going into that off season, the bulking season and stuff. And it's just fun to be there. It's fun to watch. It's the best part of it, I think, is the team, to be honest.
That was always my favorite part about team sports. Was it wasn't really the game. For me, it was always like before the games, just messing around in the locker room, doing all that kind of stuff, and just
Yeah.
like getting ready and stuff. That was always my favorite part of the whole experience, anyways. But how big of the scene in bodybuilding is there really in Minnesota? Because I know I've had a few dozen guests from Minnesota on, and it's it doesn't seem like it's nearly as big as it is in some other states. Like, because I've talked to people from like Kansas or like Ohio is the big one, or Texas and California, just because they're so huge. How big is the scene here? Because it doesn't seem like it's as big as it really should be, honestly.
I think it's definitely gotten bigger since I started. There's a lot of the younger generation that are kind of getting into it now that I've seen, but it's still not, I mean, it's never going to be the size of like Texas or those southern states that just have so many competitors in one area kind of thing. But there's definitely quite a few. It's just we all kind of live not near each other. So like there's a group of us that live like more up in my area, Andover, Coon Rapids, Blaine, Maple Grove. So like we all work out at one gym, and then there's some people that live more south, which is like an hour from us, and they all work out at a different gym. So we're around, we're just kind of spread out.
I honestly blame the winter, to be honest. Like, I honestly think if it was if we had like Florida's weather, Texas weather, yeah, it would be a little bit easier to. I just think once it gets to that winter and you're just trying to just put on that 5 to 10 pounds of winter weight just to survive, it's hard to compete. And yeah, I do agree with you where I've seen like in the 5 years that I'm doing this, which is my 5-year anniversary next month of doing this podcast, I should say. It has grown. It has grown a lot. But even before, like I was like, because like I didn't even have a guest from Minnesota on until probably like my 100th guest or something like that, because I didn't even know that there was one. And then apparently it was a guest all the way in Shakopee, which is, I'm in Bloomington, so it's right next to the city, right next to me. So it was crazy there. But yeah, I do hope it grows a little bit. But when you are talking about the future and everything, and you have you're taking the 3 to 4 years off, how do you think you're going to deal with it mentally? Because I know the bodybuilding mindset, because I've talked to so many of you guys, that it's hard to kind of lay off the sport for a while, because I've talked to guests where like they are literally just clawing at the bit after a few years. How do you think you're going to deal with that?
I think I'm definitely going to have FOMO for sure, of not competing and not being in that environment for that long. Because like I said before with the team and stuff, like that's what makes it fun. That's what, you get to meet all these other people that do the same things and go through the same things that you are. So I'm definitely going to have FOMO, but it doesn't mean that I won't still like show up to shows just to hang out, see everyone and that kind of stuff. But not being on stage for that long, yeah, I'm sure by the end of it, I will probably be very ready. But it just kind of depends on like where our life is at that point, and if bodybuilding is going to fit in, just because like bodybuilding is a very selfish sport, and it's it takes a lot of time not only in the gym but outside of the gym. So it'll just kind of depend on where we are at that point to see if it's something that can fit, or if I have to wait a little bit longer. And if I do, then I do, and that's okay.
Thank you so much for saying that, because so many people that I've talked to, when they get started, they don't realize how much of a commitment it is and how much more they're really going to have to sacrifice. And then by that time, it's kind of too late for just other aspects of their life, such as just, being able to live their lives kind of in a different way, where it's just that it's a little too late for them. And oh my God, the stories that I've heard, Gabby, I don't even want to, it's crazy. But anyway, off of that, but yeah, it's just it's great that you sort of have that schedule ahead of time, because so many people, like I said, they don't have that schedule, and then next thing you know, it's 15, 20 years down the line, and then they're like, what have I been doing? Which is kind of like me in this podcast, where it's like 5 years down the line, I'm like, wait, what? I'm still doing this. What's going on here? So sort of similar, but when it comes to just like I always talk about, I ask this question every single time I have a guest on. It's going to keep repeating. If there's one thing that you could change about the sport of bodybuilding and everyone would go along with it, will be one thing that you'd like to see changed.
Hmm.
It can be more than one too. I've allowed that now recently.
I think at like a national level. So like if you hit that top 5, you get to go out and like do your routine again. If you are not in that top 5, you just come out, hit a front pose, and you have to leave. So I think it'd be cool to kind of change that and like allow those competitors to at least, sure, they're not placing in the top 5, but to at least allow them to do their like posing routine again before just like, okay, you're done. Cause it's, you know, it's a lot of work. They still, you know, you still do a lot of work to get there, even if you aren't placing in that top 5. And I think it would just be, it's just, and it only takes, you know, 30 seconds, if that, at an NPC level. So I think that'd be cool.
Well, we talked about it. I remember when I met you, it's the prize money too. Good God. It's just, come on, people.
The difference in the IFBB Pro League. Yeah.
Just the difference in anything. I mean, it's like if you're spending more money than you have any chance of making, even if you win the show for a lot of these shows, it's like, what are we doing here, people? So it's like, yeah, they should be rewarded. For me, it was always like, if the moment you become a pro or anything like that, you should just get like a little stipend of a year. I'm not saying it has to be anything big. Like maybe it's like even like 20 grand or something like that, just a year, just for every pro athlete, just as like a backup income, so that they don't have to really be that worried about stuff, because it is. People do not understand, like, you guys work just as hard as any other sport, and these guys are making millions of dollars in some of their sports, and then you guys are just, you know, at the end of the day, a lot of people are losing money. I mean, you basically have to win the Olympia now to really like live off of it. So it's just,
yeah. I mean, even then, the Olympian winners for women, at least,
you get that car that you can sell, though. That's the only.
Yeah, they just don't make nearly as much prize money as the male divisions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it should be a lot more even than that too, because the moment I actually looked at the price differences, I was just like, okay, like I can understand if maybe it's just a little bit less, but it's like when it's that astronomically less, we're just like, what's going on here? So yeah, again, until and also put the shows back in the Arnold too. Like when they took all that stuff out of the Arnold, and now they have like arm wrestling championships, and then they have like other, like they had the slap championships, and it's like, first of all, that's as entertaining as can be. Like I would watch that. People get slapped and you get to watch it. That's okay. That's awesome. But you know, it's like, that shouldn't be, you know, a show at the Arnold. So I would definitely, you know, have that in there as well. And I mean, I asked you this last time, and it changes every year just because there's these new fads and everything out there. But what's the best piece of advice that you would give for someone who's just looking to get started on their fitness journey?
Fitness in general or bodybuilding?
We can do either or. It could lean into one or the other, but it can be either, or whatever one. It doesn't matter.
Bodybuilding, I would for sure say that before you decide to do it, make sure it's something that you will be able to allocate your time to, but not just for yourself, but for your partner, if you have one, for your family, because it takes you away from a lot. And I don't think that is something that is really out there about how much it takes you away from those kinds of things. And it's expensive. So just make sure it's something that you want to do. Fitness wise, just start. You know, you just pick a day, stick to that day, and just start. And if you have a bad day, or you have a meal that maybe you weren't supposed to have, or maybe you skipped cardio, it's okay. It's not going to kill your overall progress. And so don't eat yourself up about little simple things like that.
Or just be like me and get a job where you do a lot of labor, so like you really only have to work out like 2 or 3 times a week, because otherwise you're just absolutely that's a big help as well, I will say myself. But yeah, I would definitely say talk to people that have competed as well if you're going to do competing. This is just my own 2 cents, obviously. And if you're going to take it really seriously, I would find a coach as well, because dear God, the people that I've talked to who say, oh, I'm just going to do this by myself at first, you're just like, but it could be so much easier. Like you don't understand, like you're making it so much harder. So yeah, those are my, you know, little 2 cents of it as well. And, you know, Gabby, it was great as always to have you on and share your journey with us. And again, I've always said the significant others are the unsung heroes of this entire podcast, because with the crap that they have to deal with, good God, they deserve a medal and a monument at the same time. But yeah, that is great. But is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to before we wrap things up?
Well, definitely my wife. She was finally back this year, and she made it to all my shows, and I wouldn't be able to have the confidence and do what I do without her behind me. My coach, Christy, obviously, she also pushes me to bring my best and be the best, and I definitely wouldn't be able to do it without her making my plans and that kind of thing. And then the team, you know, Fit Body Fusion, they're great, wonderful women, and yeah.
So I just got one last. So how do you join a team? Is it kind of like, do they recruit you, or do you just kind of apply? How does that whole process work?
I know with Fit Body Fusion it could be different with other teams, but like with Fit Body Fusion, you just go to their website. You can choose between if you want to be a prep client, lifestyle transformation, and then say you have a coach in mind. Like say you're from Upper Midwest and you want to work with Christy. When you fill out your form, you can request Christy, and then you get a free consultation where then you guys talk for a little bit and kind of figure out what your goals are and if it's a good fit.
Right. Yeah, I was always concerned, or not concerned. I was always curious about like how that whole thing came to be, because I know a lot of people on teams, and yeah, like you, they sing the praises of it and they say it's great, and I honestly think it's great too, because like you said, it is a kind of a lonely sport. So when you have people to sort of, I call it joint suffering, where it's kind of like when you suffer together with someone, you kind of form a bond where it's just, you're a little bit closer now. So that is great. And again, everyone, go and check out Gabby's page. I highly recommend it. It's, you will be inspired and motivated to get off that couch and stop eating all those Twinkies. I'm going to have to actually do my cardio, right before like I said, I go for my cheat meal, because I don't know if that's going to even, flow through my system nicely. But again, Gabby, thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you again at the show. I will try to. So the first time that she saw me, everyone, I had gotten zero sleep the night before. So the first time she met me, I was like a zombie. And then I caffeined up. And then the next time I came for the later show, I was a little bit more talkative. So I'm going to make sure that I get the proper sleep, the night before. But Gabby, again, thank you so much. And I really look forward to having you on again.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. This is Ryan Johnson, DD on the Spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.